calm, focused happiness. Hey, Mindful Tribe, welcome to the show. Today, we're going to be talking about organizing, decluttering. We're going to be talking about the mindfulness behind all of that and how you can achieve that in your life. You can be mindful, you can be grounded, and this is all within reach. And we're talking to a guy who is one of the top downsizing and decluttering experts in the country. He's host of a television series, Legacy List, and he's been featured on the show Hoarders for 15 seasons. And I'm pretty fascinated. I'm pretty excited and pumped to be talking today to Matt Paxton. Hey, Matt, are you in mindfulness mode today?
Every day, man.
That's cool. I guess you've got to be. You've got 7 kids and you've got to promote this idea of being organized and to declutter and all of this kind of stuff. Well, what does mindfulness mean to you, Matt?
So for me, mindfulness it's really about living your true life, the life for you. And intentionality is probably the word that comes for me the most. And like, how do I live my life, the one that works for me in the world? And what do I need to do to prepare myself for the day to live that way? And so for mindfulness, for me, it's like, man, I got to get really super prepared mentally to have the life that I actually want to have every day. And what I do there is my mindfulness is really about, and this is a long answer, sorry, but
okay.
For me, it's intention, preparing my day for intentional living and to really like everything I do to give to the life that I want, because with so many kids and so much business, I don't have time for like wasteful things. Right. And that might be people, it might be stuff, it might be ideas, but I've got to be intentional with every minute of my day. And the only way to achieve that for me is mindfulness and to get really prepared. Wow. And sometimes that's brutal honesty, which is never fun for anyone.
So I just think your life must be incredible, so organized and so intentional, so amazing.
Intentionality, yes. Yes. Organized, no way. No, man. I mean, we're Americans. No one's really that organized. Like, we have so much stuff, whether it be physical or mental or emotional or, financial. Like, there's just so much going on. And I would say intentional, yes, but not. I mean, that's one thing I tell everybody. Like, when you ask for help in whatever subject, whether it's organization or financial management, like a lot of us are in this industry because we struggled with it, and so like, I'm not the most organized guy in the world. I just spend a lot of time doing it, probably more time than you do. Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Yeah. I say to you, I mean, to every listener, right?
To every listener.
I mean, I hope I do spend more time organizing every day. I'm the number one guy in the country on this. Yeah. Like, I better, or I wouldn't know anything, but like this listener is probably better at piano or pickleball or running or whatever they're into, because they put a lot of their time and intentionality into that topic.
So is that what you do for fun as well? Or what do you do for fun in your life?
Yeah, I load the dishwasher. I love loading the dishwasher. Like, I love folding laundry. Like, I mean, I'm laughing, but I'm not. I'm big into, like, honestly, what I do for me. I go for a 5-mile walk every morning. Okay. And I love that. I love, I love being in the woods. I love when a deer surprises me, or like a bird. I have bird feeders. That sounds silly. I mean, I'm 47. I got 7 kids. Like, it's not really about me in this season of my life. Mm-hmm. So like, it's small things. Like, my wife and I go on a date every Friday night. That's a big deal for me. And so I kind of look forward to Friday nights, honestly. Like, that's really the only like 5 hours that are mine in the week that don't involve the kids. It's that time with my wife. And then sitting on my couch outside, watching my birds, and then watching my deer in the morning. I mean, it sounds so silly, but like, that's my time, man. That's my place. And that's where I really, really, like, you're like, oh, okay, all this work is worth this moment, like right now.
Well, it sounds pretty mindful, to be honest. It really does sound like it's all about mindfulness.
I think it is. I mean, mindfulness is new for me in the last, like, probably 2 to 3 years. Because I used to just work like all out, like, foot on the pedal. And I grew up, I'm a kid of the 80s. So like, I grew up like, my mom taught me, like, single mom, like, hard work is everything. Everything will come with hard work.
Right.
And as I've gotten older, that's not true. Yeah. I mean, nothing against my mom, but if you're not like walking towards happiness, like whatever makes you happy, then a lot of that hard work is wasted. And a lot of it, I think this is the right place to say this. Like, I used to work for money, and I used to work for like financial gain, and that never panned out. Like, when I tried to get rich, I always failed. And when I finally just focused on, oh, I got a train. I'm going to let this train go by so we don't miss this point. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I should have told you this. I have a train every hour that goes by my front yard.
And I have a marker that I can put into my recording.
Okay, good.
So that when we edit it, no problem.
Tell me when you don't hear it anymore. Because what I was about to say was kind of important. So I want to go back.
I don't hear it now.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No.
Let's give it 5 seconds. It's
sure.
Literally my whole front yard is.
Well, here, if you could just give me 5 seconds, I'll grab a water.
Go for it.
Right back.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it. That's perfect. Go for your water now.
Way more than 5 seconds, but I bet the
Yeah, that's all right. No, it's still going. If you don't hear it, then I'm not worried about it.
No, I can't hear it now.
Okay, cool. We'll just keep going. I'll tell me when you're back on. Are we back on?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, for me, I hard work's really important, and I respect it, and that's part of my core values and like what I believe in. And but a lot of times I would like quantify hard work with money earned, and as a young man, I mean, that's what I thought I needed to do, and as a husband and provider and all that, and I was really wrong. And different generations have different beliefs because of where they are in life and time and all that. I'm fine with that. But like, for me, I found that I had to help people. And so like, when I tried to be like, that was my big metric, was like, did I help someone today? And I kept seeing like, I wouldn't like, when I didn't focus on money, I would maybe make more money.
Interesting,
and like,
isn't it?
And when I finally said, "Hey, man," and I don't want to get too religious, like it's more spiritual than faith for me. When I finally just gave in to the world and said, "Okay, I'm gonna help people. That's it," and it was literally like a jump off a wall. And I was like, for this month, I'm not gonna worry about the cost and the profit, and I'm just gonna say, did I help that person? And when I finally gave into that, like at the end of the month, I looked at it and was like, "Oh man, I made more money." Like, and then I was like, I'll do it another month. And I do it again. And it's like, oh, okay. If I really just focus on helping people, then the money gets bigger and bigger. And so I finally I started just giving all in to giving and helping. And that's when my life really turned around. It was about 5 years ago. And the world gave back to me when I stopped asking, right? And I just started giving. And so that's when I really turned into mindfulness. It's like, okay, like I'm not going to listen to, I don't want to say I'm not going to listen to society, but I'm not going to listen to the traditional norms that I'd been taught and like job first and all that. I just said, hey, I'm just going to go, help people and love my family. And man, has the world given back to me. My career has exploded because I'm able just to go help people. And it was really a big lesson for me. I mean, and I preach it to everybody. I'm like, dude, stop worrying about like go help, like do what makes you feel good. Go help people. You will find more in that. And I think I've had a dance between minimalism, like I've converted to minimalism in the last 3 years and really got rid of all my stuff. Mm-hmm. Ironically, 20 years cleaning the messiest houses in the world. And I had to fall in love with a minimalist to really find happiness in life and not stuff. Right. And so really, I think the self-actualization and really just, as I say, brutal honesty, and then the helping, giving into all that, that's what really has made my life turn around.
Was it easy to become a minimalist?
it was not easy to become a minimalist, but it's very easy to stay one. It was super scary. I mean, there's a lot of jumps. I talk a lot about jumping off the cliff. I mean, I was living in a neighborhood that I had lived in for 47 years. Like I grew up in that neighborhood, and I came back to that neighborhood and raised my children in that neighborhood. And my mom lived around the corner. My grandmother lived around the corner. Like my whole life was in that, 10 block radius. And I was leaving that for 8 hours south to Atlanta. And I really started to freak out when I was cleaning out my house. And it was, and I've been given this advice to people I'm literally on podcasts and articles and giving advice on how to clean and how to just, how to declutter and downsize. But yet when it was my own house, man, it was really hard. And when I got into the attic, going through my grandparents' stuff, my dad's stuff, my, everybody, my stuff from high school, letters from girlfriends that I hadn't even talked to in 30 or 40 years, but all that stuff got to me mentally, and I almost didn't move. I basically quit. And I was just I called my girlfriend at the time, now my wife. And I just said, I don't know if I can do this. And she's a hardcore minimalist. And she just goes, well, me and your future life are in Atlanta. If you would like to stay with your stuff, good luck. Because then you're not the man I thought you were.
Oh, wow.
And then she goes, let me know what you decide. And she hung up.
Wow, that was tough, huh?
Well, I think I needed that.
Yeah.
Right. I needed that hard of a, ultimatum. And so we didn't talk for 2 days, and I went through this whole thing. Right. And at the end I was like, all right, I got to do this. I'm an idiot if I don't go. And, spoiler alert, we're now married and we have 7 kids and we live in Atlanta, and it's awesome. And I will say minimalism has really changed my life for the positive. I have more time. I'm not spending all this time chasing stuff and cleaning up stuff and picking up stuff, especially with young children. I mean, we have 6 boys, 8 to 14, and then a 16-year-old girl. And I found myself working harder to buy stuff. I found myself spending more time organizing it and cleaning it. And then even our yard, my wife is a hardcore minimalist. Our yard is designed to have very minimal upkeep. Mm-hmm. Everything in our house, we don't have any walk-in closets. We only have 10, we have 9 people and we have 10 plates. We're very specific and intentional in everything we do. But what that allows us to do is have a lot more time to do the things we want to do together as a family, or, as a duo, or even it allows me to, I don't work till 10 now every day, mm-hmm. because I've made it. Being a minimalist has given me time to have that time from 8:30 to 10 to go on my walk. And that intentionality has really made my life better. So I found myself much happier with less stuff. And the side note was it gives you more money because you're not wasting your time buying a bunch of junk. Mm-hmm. What I didn't know minimalism would do is it exposes your parenting, good and bad. I used to put my kids in front of a TV, mm-hmm. and TV and video games. That really did a lot of my parenting, and I didn't know that until I didn't have that option anymore. And so a lot of my time is now spent parenting, and as opposed to just letting them, I'm not saying you got that's not a golden rule of minimalism. Although I am wearing a black shirt, you don't have to wear a black shirt and have no things. We say we're modern minimalists. We still have things, we still have Legos, we still have, we still have life. We have 8 bikes in our garage because we have 9 of us here. It's we're not saying we don't live, but we don't have a bunch of junk so that we can have the stuff in the life we want. But yeah, minimalism has changed my life probably the best, honestly, because it's given me space to actually live.
That's fascinating. Yeah. So let's talk about clothes. Do you have a limit? Everybody in your family can only have a certain number of shirts, a certain number of this and that. Is that how you do it, or how does this?
We do space. So every kid's got a 4-foot wide locker. Okay. You can fill it with dinosaurs if you want, but you're wearing dinosaurs to school. Oh. Your space is your space. Now we have a 16-year-old daughter. Mm-hmm. None of these rules apply to her. She has a normal 16-year-old daughter's room. She probably has more clothes in her room than all of us combined. Mm-hmm. Half of them are ones she's stolen from us, from our donate pile. She's just a normal 16-year-old daughter. I think she will eventually come back to the minimalism life that we live. But right now she's a 16-year-old daughter, and we're not going to like push anything on her. Honestly, we're pretty lucky. She's pretty awesome. She doesn't go too far from our life. But yeah, I've got about 6 shirts. I got 3 pair of pants. Because of my career, I have to have a suit. I have to have, I have sponsor shirts. So, but I have, we don't have walk-in closets. We have a panel closet. So my wife and I each have, we have about 6 feet. And we honestly don't. Yeah, we don't have a lot. I used to do this with a lot of my hoarders and my downsizing clients. I would. There's an old trick I heard, which was if because I had before I moved here, I had a big master walk-in closet, and I must have had, I had all my size 28 pants, my 30s, my 32s, my 34s, my 36s, and I was like, I'm going to get into that, right? I'm going to eventually get back to the 28s. And which is a total lie to yourself, right? But I believed it, and I'm like, well, I'll just keep one, and it'd be like, they were like parachute pants, they were things from the 80s, like hammer pants, it's just ridiculous, But it was something my wife taught me about being your true self, and she's like, she goes, everything in your closet is for a fantasy life. She's like, you have skis. She goes, you have skis in your garage. She goes, when's the last time you went skiing? And I was like, I don't know, like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
She's like, couldn't you just get rid of those and rent a pair? And I'm like, well, but I have skis. And she's like, great, that you've never used. She's like, did you have children last time you skied? And I was like, no, I did not have children last time I skied. She's like, so get rid of it, right? And so like when I started sitting in on that, it's like, okay, wait a minute. If I really reel in my real life, right, not my fantasy life, my real life, like what do I really need? I need 3 pair of jeans.
Right.
And that's it. And
so a lot of it's about honesty.
Honesty with yourself.
Yeah,
honesty with yourself, which I think has a lot of crossover to what you believe in. Like totally. True honesty with yourself is a very uncomfortable place to be at the beginning, and then it becomes like the greatest place to be once you've gotten through all the lies you've told yourself. But you gotta get through them, and I think that's the hard part. Like really, you're going to laugh. Like I was talking about this the other day, like minimalism and intentionality. I ended up calling my ex-wife and like apologizing for a lot of things, almost like an addict would in rehab.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I just realized like, oh man, I put work, and not that I wanted to be back with her or anything. I just felt bad. We're friends. Like she actually lives down the street. In fact, my wife and her are better friends than I am. And we raise a lot of kids together. And, but a couple times I called, I was like, hey man, I put money and work ahead of you. Like I get it. Now I kind of get why you left. Like, I'm really sorry, I've had a couple like deeply, brutally honest conversations with her. And I do a lot of that in my walks. I'm thinking, and then I come back from the walk and I call her real quick and I apologize. And it's funny, she ended up doing the same thing now. And so probably like once a quarter, we pretty much apologize for like real stuff we did. Now we were kids, and so we don't hold it against each other, but like we definitely, as you mature and you get more honest with yourself and you find some happiness and some peace, like I think it's important to apologize to yourself and to the other people that you harmed if you did. And to me that means you're going down the right path if you can see the truth in things people might have said to you 15 years ago. Now, I'm not saying call all your ex-partners. Yeah. That's not what I'm saying. Sure. But sit in it with yourself and be brutally honest with yourself, and it does bring happiness and joy on the back end, I believe.
Well, it's really fascinating. I'm just wondering if somebody's listening to this today and they think, okay, where do I start? Do you start with one room? Do you start with your garage? Do you start with your basement? What do you do if you want to start moving toward this goal?
I love it. Okay. So I'll say that, let's start with this. We hold on to stuff because of the people that they're attached to, or either the past or the future. It's either the life you had or the life you want. That's why you hold on to stuff. So in hoarding, we used to call it fake future and perfect past.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's really important to know, like, what do you want now? Like, what's the life you really want now? Because you can waste 10 years reliving the past or planning for the future. And that's what a lot of my hoarders did. And so for me, I try to find a room or a space that it doesn't have a lot of heavy mental significance. I got into this industry almost 25 years ago because my dad, my stepdad, and both my grandfathers died. They all died in the same year.
Right.
And I had to clean out 4 houses. So I would not advise starting like in one of those people's rooms or one of the boxes of one of those people. Like start somewhere easy, like junk mail. Right. I really love junk mail because it's easy to make decisions.
Sure.
Most people would tell you don't start with the pictures. I don't mind starting with pictures because you're just sorting. You're just getting it doesn't the first couple of weeks, it does not matter what you achieve. It's just that you got started. That's it. Because there's stuff that you need for life.
Yeah, totally.
And this is going to be very unpopular from what I'm about to say. I think 90% of the stuff in your house is not needed. And I'm not saying you should get rid of, it's not needed. It's wanted. It's desired. And I have found for me, I'm saying this only for me, most of it was I was just trying to find happiness and self-worth somewhere in something, whether it be running or biking. And all of this is the most important thing I'll say today. All of those things are stepping stones to where you are today. You needed that stuff then to get where you are now. But with that theory of stepping stones, it's okay to let go of it now and give it to somebody else.
Okay, it served its purpose.
Serve is the exact word. It served you then. It probably doesn't serve you now. And so I really get into that. So I think, start somewhere like, weight is a big thing for me. I've gone back and forth on my weight. And so I've spent countless amount of money and time buying all these ridiculous contraptions and it turns out all I needed to do was go for a walk every day.
Right. You could get rid of all the contraptions.
Get all the contraptions. But like I say, start in your, I like junk mail. I like guest room closet, right? Like a place or a drawer, a space. For me, it's about small, achievable.
Right.
The junk drawer I love. You should work for 10 to 20 minutes. That's it. Do that every night for a couple weeks. If you really don't know where to start, man, I think just the rule of your sink should be dry when you go to bed. I'm going to say that again. Your sink should be empty and dry when you go to bed. Just get in the habit of doing the dishes every night. Okay. Yeah. Just that alone you've got a goal, you accomplish it, and you're proving to yourself with action every day that you can follow through and do it, because there will be a night that you're not going to want to do it. And you're going to be like, I'm going to quit. And the issue, here's the key, is just not quitting.
Yeah.
Like, just don't quit. And so don't allow yourself to quit. And so and when I talk about intentionality, I believe a lot of this I really believe a lot of this is the choosing not to quit. My dad was a wild man, like crazy ad man in the 70s, drank a bottle of scotch every day. But still a good dude, believe it or not. I found a lot of crazy stuff about my dad that you're not supposed to find when I cleaned out his house, right?
Okay, yeah. And
I can laugh about it now. But my dad said to me when I was 16, and it's a very real thing, and I still hang on it every day. He goes, "Hey man," and my dad was he wasn't a super active dad. He just lived he lived it every day. Every day was the moment, which is almost too much. And he did not plan. He had like $100 when he died. He was in his 50s, but he said, "Hey man, you're never going to be the smartest guy in the room." He goes, "You're never going to be the best looking guy in the room. You're never going to be the strongest guy in the room. You're never going to be the richest guy in the room." And he goes, "But you can outwork everybody." He goes, "You're the hardest working kid I ever met." And he goes, "And that's a choice you'll have to make every day." And he goes, "If you outwork everybody," he goes, "everyone else will quit." He goes, "So every time you want to quit," he goes, "remember, that's just getting you closer to winning, because everyone else eventually will quit." He goes, "You won't even be remotely the most talented guy in there." He goes, "But you got the secret in your head of, oh, I won't quit and everybody else will." And that pretty much got me through my 20s and 30s, honestly. Like, there were some really low times where you're like, okay, God, like, seriously, dude? Like, this is getting embarrassing. Like, I'm believing you, man, but like, give me a sign here, dude. Like, give me something, Wow. And I remember my mom used to say, "Well, God only gives you, as much as you can handle." And she goes, but I think he thinks you can handle more than you think. You can't. Like, yeah, I think because we were losing. I mean, these men were dying every 6 months, and so I was just, everyone that raised me was dying like one after another. And it was just really hard. But I remember my dad said, just don't quit. And so I've taken that into my philosophy now of downsizing and decluttering and even minimalism. Like, it's, first of all, it's just stuff. Like, it's just not that important. It's just stuff. And you are the person you are. The realness of you has nothing to do with stuff. It's how you treat people. It's how you help people. It's how you live in the world. I mean, and this gets cheesy, but like, you don't go to a funeral and people talk about the stuff you own. They talk about how you made them feel.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so I mean, and just so your listeners know, I asked to come on your podcast because I love the topic, and I want people to hear like a lot of this is a choice, and you can. I mean, you're already going, if you're listening to this podcast, you're already interested in having a better life. You wouldn't be listening to it if you weren't. So don't let the stuff hold you back, because stuff is just a really good excuse. And I'll say that again. Stuff is just a really good excuse to quit. You don't need most of it. You need about 10% of it.
Yeah, if that. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is really interesting. I'm enjoying this conversation.
Yeah.
I'm just fascinated as to, with all the work you've done helping people who are hoarders, helping people who have collected all this stuff. Did you start to kind of delve into the psychology of this? Like, why do people keep books and magazines? What's the psychological aspect of why people keep boxes and containers and things like that? Did you ever think about stuff like that?
Oh my God, think about it every day.
I would think. I would think you would.
I mean, look, I have a unique opportunity. I've spent 20 plus years in people's attics and basements.
Yeah.
And so on a one-on-one level, and you can't study it at a mass level. And I have helped a lot of universities, do research on this. And I've actually written 2 books. I wrote one, Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff, is my newest book.
Yeah.
And it's really about downsizing and decluttering. A book I wrote 10 years ago is called The Secret Lives of Hoarders. And that gets really deep into the psychology of hoarding. And I can sum it up really quick. Hoarders are looking for happiness and self-worth in stuff.
Okay.
Just like people look for it in alcohol, in drugs, in faith, in work, in friendships, in exercise. Same thing. I put positive and negative things there together. All right. I just put alcoholism and faith in the same sentence. And I did that on purpose, because we're all looking for our happiness and self-worth in something. And the root cause is because something bad has happened to us. Right? There's some type of trauma in all those situations. Something harmed us, and we want happiness and self-worth. We don't know why our brains work this way. There's no data yet to know why the brain chooses hoarding or alcoholism. Right? But we do know that trauma caused it. So with the hoarding, I mean, I've helped thousands of families. And on the hoarding, what we saw was it was usually death or divorce or abuse.
Okay.
And now I can actually look at a pile and I can be like, well, that's, people like, that's hoarding. My grandma was a hoarder. I'm like, oh no, man, she's got dementia. Like, the way that pile is created, that's Alzheimer's. That's not hoarding. And then I'll be like, oh, your mom was abused. Did she have an uncle or a husband? And they'll be like, yeah, her husband used to beat the crap out of her. I'm like, yeah, that's what this is, And so there's different types. I mean, so to really hit you here, early on, our hoarders would be, by the way, they're super smart. They're super smart people, smarter than the average person. Mm-hmm. They believe they can do more in the world than you and I think. That's why they keep so much stuff, because they actually believe they can get to it. And they were very successful. Top 3 careers were teachers, nurses, and social workers.
Interesting.
Teachers, nurses, and social workers. And this is what'll blow you away. What do those 3 things have in common? Well, besides being underpaid?
Helping people.
They help people. They're caring people. They help people. Right. Hoarders are very caring people. Most of and if you're listening right now, whoever's listening to this podcast, and you had a relative that was a hoarder, I'm going to blow your mind right now. Everything they hoarded that they kept was to give away to other people. It wasn't for themselves. Mm. They were trying to help other people. Their happiness and self-worth came by giving to others. And so they would consume so much because they wanted to help others so much. I said this in a speech the other day. I used to walk into a hoarder's home and I'd be like, the rest of the world's like, you're gross, you're filthy, you're disgusting. And what I learned was they just cared so much about other people that they were either, again, we talked about this earlier, they were either holding on to stuff from the past or they were preparing to give things away for the future. And so I switched my verbiage from, oh man, you're gross, you're filthy. I'm like, man, you got a lot of love in your life. Wow. Like you care about a lot of people. And you would switch that verbiage and they'd be like, I do, and it'd be a lady that hadn't smiled in 10 years because the whole world's crapping on her, right. And I'd be like, man, you must love a lot of people. And they would be like, I do. Like, great. Tell me about all of them. Every single one. Let's start. Like, well, that's going to take a long time. Great. This is going to take us a month to clean your house. I got the time. Let's go. And as we were cleaning, we would hear all these amazing stories. And kind of the longevity of my career has been learning that, the stuff is really about the stories. And that's what my new book, Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff, and my TV show, Legacy List, is all about the stories. I do not care what an item is worth financially. I care about what it's worth emotionally. And what I've really found is if you tell the stories about these items, it's easier to get rid of them. And that sounds so counterintuitive, but the more you tell the stories of your family, your loved ones, good and bad stories, whatever the truth is, you tell that story and you find yourself releasing that item. You don't need it anymore. You just need the story. Because you don't hold on to something because it's plastic or it's wood. You hold on to it because it was your grandfather's, or it was your grandmother's, and your grandmother was an amazing woman for these reasons. If you talk about that over and over and over, you find yourself not needing the stuff anymore.
Yeah, that is really, really interesting. Yeah. And it makes
so you asked about sense. The psychology. Yeah, that's the psychology. I mean, I'm very lucky to have just been able to see it, and thousands of times over I've seen it, and I've also seen people get their lives back. Where I've seen a hoarder that had no life. I got invited to 8 weddings of different hoarders.
Did you really?
That turned their lives around? Yeah, that turned their lives around, and that's a tough dilemma. What do you get a hoarder for their wedding gift? It's a really hard dilemma. Nothing is the answer, by the way. Yes. Don't buy them anything. They don't need it. But I've really found that hoarders are it's probably the most misunderstood group in the world. They're super good people, man. They're fascinating people. They're crazy smart, super smart, a different level. They have more time than we do because they don't live on the same time frame that you and I live on. And so they think they can do more. And a lot of times they can, and they're just fascinating, brilliant people that are currently is the important word there, currently having a rough time. Right. And if you do it the right way, their life can come back and even better. I mean, even better than it was before.
So interesting. I always ask a question about bullying and how mindfulness connects to it. Do you have a story about bullying where, mindfulness would have made a difference? So maybe it applies to you, or as it applies to someone or something like this?
I should have read the questions. I saw you send them to me. I didn't read them. This is great. I have 7 kids, so bullying is a big issue for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it a different angle. Take it with hoarders too. I mean, a lot of my hoarders are made fun of constantly. Right. And I mean, look, I was on a TV show that put a mental health disorder on television for profit.
Right.
I mean, there's an ethical dilemma right there from the beginning, right? And so what I remind everybody is we give everybody therapy. We would give them a year of therapy on the back end. And if the TV show didn't pay for that therapy, I don't think it would be an ethical show, honestly. And so why I'm saying this for the bullying question is what hoarding did for me was it really forced me, at an extreme level, to be super compassionate, right? And understand why the person behaves the way they do. There is always a reason that someone behaves the way they behave. And so as I've gotten older in life, and where I'm going to get to the bullying here is dating, as in your 40s, most everybody is coming out of their first marriage. Mm-hmm. And I often heard a lot of bullying behavior from one spouse to the other. And what made me a good person to date in my 40s, I found out later, was that I was very compassionate to both sides. And that is because of my hoarding. And so I will remind everybody on the bullying, it's really easy to hate the bully, but bullies bully because they were bullied.
Yes.
And you have to be compassionate enough to see that side. And it's really hard when they're bullying you. It's extremely hard to understand, well, there's a reason, and I tell my kids all the time, like, look, like, and my kids, they hate when I talk about them. But one of my sons was getting bullied by this kid. And I said, yeah, just tell him, that he loves you and you really appreciate it. He goes, what? I go, man, that kid's got a horrible life at home. If he's bullying you, like, that guy's got a crap life. Yeah. And I go, so just, say, I hear you, man. You want a hug? I'll give you a hug. And so they walk over. I tell them, it's like, walk over to the kids, offer them a hug. And it just throws them off. They don't know what to do. And it says, no, my dad told me you got something bad going on at home, man. If I can help you, let me know. I said, be super nice to him. And I said, they'll all stop. And he's like, no, this kid's going to punch me. And I said, no, he won't. Trust me. He's going to freak out, dude. He's going to leave. And I mean, every single time they come back, it works, and they think it's hilarious. They're like so thrown off. So I'm in it with a joke, but really, at the end of the day, you got to understand at any level of bullying, whether it's your partner, whether it's your someone at work or a kid, that person's bullying because their life is really bad, and so like the challenge for us is to be compassionate and turn it back and be like, hey man, I'm sorry you're going through something. You got nothing to do with me. Like, you got to be a confident person to do that, and you got to be a compassionate person to do that. But it never has anything to do with you, like ever. Yeah, they don't even know you.
Absolutely true. They don't even know you. That's right.
They don't even know you. I always said, like, I saw a lot of people like, if they know your middle name, then whatever. And this is what I learned being a guy that was on reality TV for the last 15 years as social media came to light. Right. I used to read, early on, like back when TV was a time, right? Like, oh, you're on at 9 p.m. on Mondays, right? That doesn't exist anymore. But for 10 years it did. And at the same time, Facebook was the only place you went online. Yeah. So there was one place it was our town center, it was our town hall, Yeah. And so I would literally sit there and watch myself on TV. I'd be interacting with fans, and thousands of fans would be responding. And a lot of them would say horribly mean things. And like, you're fat. And I was, by the way, I was fat. And I was young and I was immature. And everything they wrote was my biggest fears. And I would just sit there and I'd get so upset, right? And then one day I just realized, I was like, man, they don't even know my middle name. It has nothing to do with me. And so that's a little thing I've always, if someone's being mean to you and they don't know your middle name, screw those guys, man. It's nothing. It's not even about you. That's and by the way, same rule for inviting someone to your wedding. If they don't know your middle name, you don't need to invite them. You'll save a ton of money.
That's a good tip.
Your mother-in-law will disagree, but a little. But bullying's tough, man, and so I believe everything's a choice. Like you can choose to be positive, you can choose to be negative, you can choose to embrace people, you can choose to ignore them, and all of those are allowable and acceptable. But you got to be clear on what your choice is, what your path is, and be really intentional about it and be confident behind it. I mean, I'm a very lucky man that my dad taught me confidence at a very, very young age. Yeah. And it's given me a really good career, and I don't waste time worrying about what other people think.
Yeah. Well, that's so important. It really is.
And I've been able to help a lot of people because of that. Yeah. And a lot of people think I'm crazy. Okay. Fine. I mean, when you first said, I'm going to do a podcast about mindfulness, what did everyone just say, this is a great idea?
No, not everybody thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, exactly. And look at us now.
Yeah, that's right. It's true.
So I also believe that if people think you're crazy, you're going down the right path. Like you're doing something worth doing. If everyone agrees, I mean, really, is it that good? Maybe like, are you the first one to think about it? If everyone agrees, I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, as we move forward in the interview, I want to ask you 5 quick answer questions. So just 30-second answers are perfect. The first one is this. Who is one person who has been a powerful mindfulness influence to you?
My dad.
Yeah. Sounds like he was amazing. And my second question is this. It's about emotions. How have you learned to deal with your emotions differently as a result of mindfulness?
It's all about compassion for me.
Yeah.
It's all, I just see the other side now.
Yeah, that's great. Let's talk about breathing. Is there an element of breathing in your life that has helped you that you can share with us?
Yeah. Getting my sons to breathe when they
Yeah.
get upset.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just deep, deep, slow down, pause, deep breathing.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes such a difference. It really does. Yeah.
And eye connection as well. I say, stop, stop. And I put the horse blinders on and I say, I take them to the other room. I pull them out of the situation because we got 9 people in the house. We get in a very quiet space and I look at them. I say, look me in the eye, deep breaths. And it just brings it down quickly without elevation.
As you mentioned, you've written a couple of books, and the most recent one is Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff. Is there a book you would recommend that's related somehow to mindfulness that can help people?
Yeah, I'm going to pitch my wife's book right here.
Ah.
Minimalism for Families. Her name is Zoe Kim. Minimalism for Families. This book changed my life. It's actually how I met my wife.
Ah.
I read her book. I hope it will not change anyone else's life like that because I actually read the book. It gave me incredible ideas of how to do more with less stuff. And it's written to teach your kids how to have less stuff. And so I read the book and I tried some of the things and it worked. And I reached out to the person that wrote it to thank her. And we now have 7 kids.
That's a pretty cool story.
It's a damn good book, right?
Yeah.
I hope it don't read, but some of the ideas and concepts in it have really advanced, even though I did this for 20 years,
Yeah.
it took me having a real coach, just my wife. To really she got me over the finish line. I had run the 24 miles, but I didn't see the whole picture yet. And for me, the minimalism side brought it back. And it was about the not lying to myself. It was about the, being brutally honest with yourself and really getting away from the financial needs and walking more towards the spiritual needs. And again, the financial needs worked themselves out when I did focus on the spiritual side.
Right. Very interesting. Is there an app of any description that you would recommend that can help with this?
I do like Calm. I don't know if that's a good one or not, but for me, Calm works. I'll say what works for me the most is floating, believe it or not, the float tanks.
Okay.
I don't know how many people here do those, but had a guy that had a float place in Richmond, Virginia. It's called the Float Zone. Love him, Dr. David. And he read an article about me in a paper, and he picked up on some of the negative things I said in the article, and I didn't know they were negative. And he just reached out and he said, "Hey, I want to give you a couple floats. Like, just come try it." And I was like, "Well, it's kind of expensive." He's like, No, it's just please come try it. He goes, "If you don't like it, don't ever come back." And I was like, okay. And I had never found a place that totally calmed me out like that. And the first float was the worst experience of my life. It was like forced meditation.
Oh yeah.
And an entrepreneur for an hour by himself going through a divorce, that's the worst thing I ever experienced. But I felt calmer at the end and I wanted to go back. And then after that, when I'm really worn out, I go float. And it gives me a centered place. It gives me a calm. I fall asleep and it lasts for days. And I found that if I do it weekly, get me through the stressful times during the week with kids, because I know I'm going to have that hour of calm. Like I know it's coming next Tuesday. And so I found that I just get more confident and know that it's coming. And so whatever works for you, floating, walking, whatever, but get consistent with it. That consistency really, really, really worked for me.
Very, very interesting. And as we wrap up the interview, do you have a final word of advice for our listeners who might be, wondering how can I move toward this? How can I become more grounded through minimalism or whatever? Do you have a word of advice?
Yeah, a finish line. What's your finish line? It's your plan. What is your goal? What life do you really want? And keep coming back to it. Right. For me, it's grandpa. I want to be a grandpa. That's my finish line. And I'm 47. I'm young, but my dad died at 52 and I'm going to have to work at it. And so I had to get healthy. I had to get focused mentally, physically, all of it. And the reason I say that, what's your finish line for me, it's my grandpa. And my wife in her book, she'll call it her why, right? Whatever it is. But for me, it's grandpa. And so Now, when I'm working out, when I want to quit, I literally say to myself, grandpa, 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 grandpa. I say it all the time. Like, when pick that, whatever it is, husband, wife, whatever you want to be, the true version of what you want to be, write it down, put it on your wall wherever you sit every day. I look at the word grandpa 100 times a day. And so when I want to quit, I can't, because I'm quitting on my kids. If I do that, it's easy to quit on yourself. It's harder to quit on your kids. So for me, that's what I got. Whatever your why is, whatever your finish line is, put it on paper, put it on the wall, make it real in front of you, and you'll stick with it harder.
Matt, it has been fantastic talking to you. I really appreciate your wisdom and all of your stories. It's been great. Thanks for being on Mindfulness Mode today.
Dude, thanks for having me, man. Thanks for doing your podcast. It'll help people.
My pleasure. Yeah. All the best to you. Bye now. Hey, Mindful Tribe. Are you experiencing anxiety? Are you experiencing stress and tension and feeling as though, it's just difficult to move on? That describes the clients I work with. Clients who have had an awful lot of problem with anxiety and stress, and maybe some kind of habits that are holding them back. And through hypnosis, we get to the bottom of it. We get right in there and we talk about it. But with hypnosis, we get right into what is causing some of this in your subconscious mind, because your subconscious mind represents about 90 to 95% of your thoughts. And you don't even realize what those thoughts are much of the time. And through hypnosis, we can get in there and we can work at this. Doesn't mean we're going to change what's going on in your subconscious mind. It means we're going to become more aware of it and then deal with it and think of it differently in the conscious mind. And I am so happy to have helped so many people with their anxiety through hypnosis and coaching. And you could be the next person. If you're listening to this episode and you would like to let go of some of this anxiety, send me an email, bruce@mindfulnessmode.com. Put coaching session in the subject line, coaching session, send it to bruce@mindfulnessmode.com. And I would love to have you on a Zoom call for a free session where we can talk about what's going on and what's happening and how can I help you. Because that's one thing I truly know about myself, is that I really love helping other people, and I would love to help you. So thanks for listening. Take what we've learned today to reach new heights of calm, focus, and happiness. Stay in the mode.